Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We got Brandon on today, United States National Rifle Team member, and most recently coming off a really big win. Brandon, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Doing well. Glad to be
Oh
here.
man, I'm so excited that you're on. First off, you just told me that you're out in Texas, and we didn't really touch on this, but what are they putting in the water over there where everybody that comes out of Texas is so good at shooting? Doesn't even matter the discipline. It's crazy.
A lot of flat ground out here, a lot of places to shoot. So they're pretty gun friendly in this area. I've been fortunate enough to have some friends let me train on their ranches and stuff. So just a lot of opportunity, I guess. And
Yeah,
it
that's
works out.
that's so that's so awesome. So before we sort of jump into this big match that you just came for, I want to give everybody the opportunity to sort of know who you are, sort of what you're doing, and more importantly, the discipline that you compete in through the United States National Rifle Team. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I started competing in air rifle as a JROTC member in my high school back in Louisiana, Bogalusa, Louisiana. I did that through my entire high school career. Immediately upon graduating, I was recruited to come to the United States Army Marksmanship Unit. I shot on the surface rifle team. I was a member of that team for a little over 20 years. Ended up, in charge of that team there for a little while at the end. So I shot across the course, shot PRS, shot NRL. I shot a little bit of small bore. And then, of course, all the full bore and the long range disciplines as well, be it match rifle or Palma gun. So I shot a little bit of everything when I was there at the unit, and that got me involved with the United States National Rifle Team. So I was a team member, a USNRT team member while I was at the AMU as well. And the USNRT basically focuses on all of the long range discipline, all the prone disciplines. So be it, the mid range national championships where we shot you could shoot any, so any rifle, any sight, any rifle, iron sight, and Palma as well, all the way to like the full bore championships, i.e. the Imperial Meeting, which is all 308, all iron sight. So we've done a little bit of everything through my career, and I was selected back in 2019, or in 20, I guess in 2015. No, I'm sorry, 2019 to be the head coach for the United States Palma Team. So I went through that entire cycle, ending in 2024 at World Championships, and now we're just picking up. And they asked me to do the head coach gig again. So we're getting ramped up to really lean in on the Palma training for those World Championships coming up in 2028, which will be in Bisley, England.
And for those people that don't know, what is Palma?
So Palma is what the Americans call target rifle, or what's known elsewhere in the world as target rifle. So you can shoot a 223 or a 308. That's got to be one of those two calibers. It's a single shot, bolt action rifle with iron sights. So most of us choose to shoot the 308. It's a 32-inch, Krieger barrel, Kelly single shot action, and iron sight system with up to a half power magnifying lens in the front. And for Palma, for TR, the international governing body is ICFRA, and they ensure that we can have no more than a zero.5 kilo trigger, a 500 gram trigger, and the bullet weight can be up to 156 grains for a 308. So we all shoot the 155 grain version of a 308 bullet.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? I got to see you guys shoot when I was at Southwest Nationals. I met one of the reps that was out there as well. And it's sort of a weird experience. If you haven't had the opportunity to go to a match, go check them out. They're fun to watch. But you see like some people with scopes, then you see other people shooting without scopes, and you're like, what's going on? Are these some people are in slings? Like, are they competing against each other? What's going on? And then when I left there, I think maybe the next weekend or the weekend after was the Western States Full Bore Championship, and I went down there to film that event, and that was really cool. I got to that was purely this discipline, and to see that and just how accurate they are without like full blown optics is like fairly amazing and almost a bit scary for how good they are. It's quite amazing.
It's remarkable. I mean, I've shot, like I said, I've shot a lot of disciplines. I've shot a lot of optics on a lot of different rifles. You see a tub gun back there, 6 millimeter with a scope on it, 7 millimeter with a scope on it, and then the Palmer rifle behind me with the iron sights on it. That set of iron sights, Al Warner designed them way back when. They kind of stayed unchanged for a long time, and a couple other companies, when Warner quit making them, a couple other companies came to the forefront and started making them for us because we needed more of them. So they are insanely accurate. Like if you put them on a dial caliper, they actually track better than just about any other sighting system out there, be it scope, irons, any of it. Those darn iron sights that we're shooting are incredibly accurate. So if you click them, the sight radius is correct. If you click quarter minute of angle, it's a quarter minute of angle going down range. So they're incredibly repeatable, and that's the reason that we choose to use those style sights.
Yeah, they're very cool. The only thing that sort of bothers me is the jackets. Mostly because I see some people wearing sweaters under them, and I'm like, it's 90 degrees out. How are you wearing that sweater and that jacket? I'm
It gets
like,
warm.
yeah, you guys must be losing 10, 15 pounds per day per match. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, you gotta stay on top of your water intake because you sweat it out. No, the main reason for wearing the sweater underneath the coat is to keep the coat from getting saturated because you want the
Mhm.
coat to be able to dry out once you take it off in between strings. You kind of want it to dry out, be back to where it needs to be instead of just being soaked with sweat. So wear some kind of long sleeve or a sweatshirt underneath. Take it off, let it air out. Open the coat up, let it air out, and everything kind of dries out in the sun. In between matches. That's the reason we wear the sweatshirts. Underneath those heavy coats.
Yeah, I'd say that must be particularly brutal out in Texas as well. We're having our first heat wave here in California. We're gonna hit over 100 for a couple of days, and um, I know you guys have the humidity and and you have the heat, and it's pretty brutal.
It's no fun out there right now. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm at my loading bench right now, getting ready to test some ammo to go to Canada next week, and I have to go up and shoot at the range tomorrow. And I'm not looking forward to it. It's supposed to be like 90 degrees by 10 a.m. and it's just gonna
hmm
be nasty out there.
Yeah, it's super fun. When I go out to the range, I'm out there for like 6 to 8 hours because I'm testing products and stuff like that too. And it's always super fun to like have to shake your hands off because the sweat's dripping down them and stuff like that. You're like, try not to get this all over everything. Um, so you've done a ton of shooting. Obviously, you with being the coach and things like that, it's really an interesting discipline. I think it doesn't get enough coverage, at least in my opinion, and it's something particularly because without the optics, it's so interesting. It feels like the heart of shooting, right? It sort of reminds me of like Carlos Hancock, back in the day with his little scope, but nonetheless, that same sort of idea. It feels so much closer to what I sort of feel marksmanship is. And that's not to take anything away from any other discipline, but in F Open we have gigantic front rest, and we're spending a bunch of money doing this all stuff. So it just feels a bit, different. Do you have? I know obviously you just shot in a certain discipline, but do you have one that you really like, or did you sort of switch between them?
I still play with a lot of different disciplines. I still shoot NRL quite a bit in the team aspect of that. I still shoot some of the sniper competitions, the team sniper comps, which I really enjoy. But the full bore prone, Palma style shooting is definitely one of my favorites. I only started into this back in like 2013 was my first year shooting
Mm,
internationally, shooting the full bore events, and I just kind of fell in love with it. We kind of suffer in the U.S. We suffer from an overabundance of disciplines.
mm,
You can go out and shoot anything you want at any given time, and you go to a match, you don't even have to bring anything. Somebody there is going to help you out, let you borrow everything they
mhm,
have. Everybody's super friendly in the community. That's what it's beautiful. But if you travel outside the U.S., they're much more tailored to a very few specific disciplines, and full bore or target rifle Palma style shooting is one of them. And I didn't really know that until I got out and started traveling internationally and seeing how the other teams, do it, how they treat the team, how they think about it. And it's a huge honor for anybody to be on any one of these national level teams for their country, and they take it very seriously. And that's what kind of draws me to it is the kind of the prestige behind it and the roots of it. That Imperial Meeting started in 1860. That's been
mhm.
going on for that long. So just the history and getting to see the history of that style of shooting is absolutely amazing. I've shot a lot of the like the sniper comps and the PRS and the NRL. That stuff's only been around for 15, 20 years. A lot of it and only mainstream for the last few. But this stuff has been mainstream all around the world for a very, very long time. There's just so much history, and it's awesome to see it when you get to travel and get to go experience it. So that's one of my
Yeah.
favorites for sure.
Yeah, and I had a really unique opportunity this year. You still there?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I had a really unique opportunity this year. After Southwest Nationals, I was invited by Tim Vaught, Dan Bramley, and Eric Cortina to come to the training session that was happening the day after. And I got to walk around a little bit and see the rest of your guys' practice, and it's really, really cool. And it's sort of you don't get to see this a lot in the shooting world, where you have like immense pride for a group, right? You're kind of going and you're shooting and you're competing, and if you're lucky, maybe you get on a local team and you do some stuff like that. But like I'm like, oh wow, like this is amazing. Like that's Team America, that's Team America, like that's Team America to US, however you want to say it. But I'm thinking this, I'm like, this is amazing. And then not only as like a competitor myself and as a sort of a student of the sport, just getting to see like the little intricacies that you guys have, in your shooting, in your prep, the way that you work together as a team. And then I got to catch a bit of your guys's post conversation where you guys were sort of hyping each other up. And I was like, oh yeah, this feels like, this is the sort of what we're missing in the sport. You don't get to see it, right? And that was a really cool experience. I take it you were probably there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was part of that with that group of folks out there, and after every one of our big championship level matches, the USNRT, the United States National Rifle Team, has put on some kind of little clinic or a little training session after each of the matches, and that's separate of the U.S. Palma team. But it's just to grow the sport. Like when I first came into this game, it was just a select handful of people knew about it. I mean, other people knew about it, but they didn't know how to get involved in it. And that's one thing that the USNRT is really trying hard to do is spread the word, spread the knowledge about what Palma shooting or full bore style shooting is, and then bringing new people into the fold because it's a great, great game. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. You're never gonna run into anybody that doesn't want you to do the best that you possibly can and will help you do that. So it's such a good group of competitors that bringing new people into it and letting them experience it is a huge part of what we want to do. Of course, we want to go represent the U.S. Win internationally as well. But even if that mission fails, if we as long as we're pulling new competitors into the game, then we're doing what we need to do. I believe.
Yeah, I agree. You guys are doing a good job. As a person who does marketing in this space, I often look at like, well, what are these leagues doing? What are these clubs doing? Whatever the case may be. And your guys' social media actually has picked up quite a bit in the last 6 months. It's been really fun to watch. You guys are putting out some cool stuff. Highly recommend anybody, if you're looking to follow along with some of this journey, go check out their Instagram account. It's super cool, but we are at the precipice right now of growth in this industry because we finally have found a way to be able to record in these places that often have terrible cell service. And with the growth of with Starlink and with other things that allow us to take internet with us, we're starting to see more and more and more of it. And it's been amazing to see the growth, right? I can remember a decade ago, the only thing I could really find was like forums, like Sniper Hide, and that's who I would be talking to, like retired Marine snipers, and they're like, oh, we got like this sort of thing going on that you could probably come do, or we have this private land that if we vet you, then maybe you can come out, and I mean that was like the bulk of it, right? And so it's been really, really cool to see the growth of this.
Yeah, the access now is probably better than it's ever been as far as,
Mhm.
people aren't just being able to get online and see videos and somebody explaining to you what's happening downrange. Used to be it was just photos. If you saw anything, you saw photos in an American Rifleman magazine or photos online
Mhm.
somewhere, but you didn't really have context there. So now, with this many people doing vlogs and all that stuff, I think it's really doing great things for the sport, and bringing people into it. And that's what we need. If you're going to keep any game alive, you need to get as much exposure and coverage on it as you can, and show everybody that it's nothing to be scared of. Coming up and talking to a national champion or a world champion or whatever, it's just like talking to anybody else at a rifle match. He's just another guy out there trying to do the best he can, and he'll help you beat him. If you can do it. So that's the
Yeah.
great thing about our sports. The access is there, the knowledge is there. All you have to do is show a little bit of interest, and somebody's going to scoop you up and bring you into the fold. Like, it's just how it
Yeah.
is.
And well, that is exactly how it is because we're like so hungry to have people that come in
Yeah.
and shoot, right? And so we're like, oh, come out, like, hey, use my 5,000 or my $15,000 rifle
Absolutely.
setup, right? Like, I have ammo for you that you can use. Like, don't worry about it. Come on, do it, right? Yeah, you see that all the time. And the one of the more interesting things that I do see, and you touched on this a bit, was the higher. I've talked to a lot of people, but almost always the better the shooter is, the nicer they are. I don't know what that is or what the core, but like seriously, like the guys that are winning nationals, the guys that are like all these guys, they're so nice and they're like so willing to give you information. I was just on the phone with somebody not that long ago who I barely had met, but I was having an issue with reloading and I wanted to sort of understand his process a bit more. And he gave me an hour, like nothing. So this community is very much like that. And if it's something you're interested in, you're right. It's so much more accessible now. And I just joined a new Facebook group, which Facebook is like so great for this sort of stuff. And I asked, like, I have this, and this is sort of why I thought it'd be interesting to talk to you. I have this issue with full bore, the name, because it is a over encompassing word that's used for many different styles, but also like people use it sort of like as slang. And then it varies country to country. And so like sometimes people are talking about a specific type of match and other times they're talking about like this over encompassing thing. And I got into this with F class, FTR and F open, and they're like, well, because this discipline is growing so much, it's sort of like away from that. But like then if you read about it, it's under it. So it gets really confusing.
Yeah, traditionally full bore was known as, I mean, again, we always called it like at the unit when I was there, it was just palm. You're just shooting palm. And that means you're
Mhm.
shooting 308 iron sights, 155 grain bullet, and you shot it at varying distances. So full bore is the full bore shot at 300, 500, 600, 800, 900, 1,000 yards. And in any combination of those can be a full bore match, well, to an
Mhm.
extent. But yeah, now they're shooting full bore courses of fire with F class rifles and FTR rifles. You don't really see many open match rifles in that space, but you see a lot of the F class stuff. So it is kind of muddied the water a bit, and there probably is a better way to explain the things that we do without muddying the water. But it's just kind of, if you're in the game and doing the thing, it makes perfect sense to you, but to anybody else
Sure.
listening, they're like, well, no idea what the hell they're talking about. So.
Yeah, well, it's been fun to explore generally, right? And just and talk to, this week alone, I've been on the phone with Canada, South Africa, Australia, and the UK and Japan. And so, we're all talking the same sport, but then something comes in. I'm like, oh, what did you mean there? What was that? Right? So that was really interesting, that sort of stuff. But sort of circling back around to the United States National Rifle Team, how do you qualify for something like that, right? Like how do they source people?
So that was a big secret. It felt like it was a big secret forever. For like you could hear about the Palma team, you could hear about how if you make the team and stuff like that, but nobody ever really knew. Now it's all online. You go to the USNRT website, usnrt.com, I believe,
Mm,
and it spells it all out right there. So you'll link up with the USNRT, one of the board members. They'll set you up with a coach. You and that coach will sort yourselves out and get to a range, and you'll do a tryout process where you'll shoot. I think you shoot 120 shots total underneath the coach and at 1,000 yards with your Palmer rifle or your 308. And they kind of grade the targets on your vertical, your ability to shoot good vertical. The coach will try his best to keep you in there for windage, but you're really looking at how you and your rifle shoot vertically. And that kind of gets you into the pipeline of becoming a USNRT team member. Then you pay your dues, which are like $170 a year, $180 a year, something like that. Not very much. And then that gets you into the USNRT where you'll have access to all of the other coaches, all of the other team members, all of the material that we put out. Like I've written a lot of drills, like shooting drills, that are
mhm.
all on the USNRT website. I design my own data books and stuff like that, and give it to the team. Anybody that's on the USNRT can get on there, download it, make their own data books. It's just a lot of information to help grow the sport. Um, you know, for a long time, it was nobody knew how to do it. Nobody knew who to talk to or when to talk to them. And I think that's really shifted now to where all you have to do, if you see anybody with a USNRT hat or a shirt or whatever, just go up there and ask them about it, or get on the USNRT website, shoot them an email, and they'll square you away very quickly.
Yeah, and you guys have the best gear. I
Yeah,
like no, yeah, no cap on that. It's really really nice. A
yeah,
lot of the stuff, and um, it's funny because the F class they're not under the United States National Rifle Team. They're like the yeah, I forget what the name of their league is or whatever. National Rifle Team or shooters or something like that. But I should know that. But either way, so I sort of like look at what gear people have because it reminds me. I'm like, worlds are coming up, right? And I sort of think of like the Olympics and when everybody comes out for the ceremonies and their swag. And so I sort of look at it from that frame point. But you're right. The information sharing in the long range shooting community in the last 4 years has exploded. And it's made it so much easier, with like pioneers like Cortina and F Class John and, Gavin, Ultimate Reloader, and X Ring, all those guys who've been putting out all of this stuff. And then, some of them obviously go a lot more heavier on match stuff and other people, or whatever. But it's made it so much more accessible, right? And it was like, for me, seeing that trajectory and then like it almost felt like there was some weight taken off of me because it feels like you can get so lost and then you spend 3 hours in a forum where people are just arguing and you're like, someone in here someone in here's got to be right, man.
squared away. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
who's the right one? So
Yeah.
that
But
sort of
now,
stuff. Go ahead.
with the podcast and with all the shows and stuff, I mean, everybody's doing roughly the same thing to get to the the level of accuracy that we all want.
Hmm.
The rifles are being built, relatively the same. The ammo's being loaded. The prep's being done the same way. So as long as you're following any one of the higher end, top tier athletes in the game, you're gonna be set up for it.
Hmm.
Again, back in the day when it was only snipers hide, it was only guys that were just doing their own little thing. You had to wade through a lot of stuff to try to get the information that you were looking for. And now it seems like the information's out there. Any problem that you have, you simply get online and ask, or look into it just a little bit, and you'll find the answers that you want. So
Hmm.
that's a great thing.
Yeah, and not only that, across disciplines, right? I've heard many of stories of, you know, very, very secretive in their discipline. They don't want it to get out of there and they don't want to share with anybody and whatever it is. And now, like, I see a lot of people who are, they're learning from bench rest or they're learning from Palma and they're moving around. And this is happening particularly a lot with 22 and with PRS, right? They're starting to adapt a lot of the reloading strategies and skills that have been tested for years and years through these other disciplines. So that's been really amazing to see. And then people like yourself who go in between these disciplines, then you become another resource for these people, right?
And that's what we all have to do. I believe, like, we owe it to the community, to the shooting community, to get the good information out there. Again, like you were talking about a national champion or a world champion level shooter seems to be about the nicest guy you can talk to at a rifle range. That's because they have struggled. They know the
Mm-hmm.
struggles. They've lived through it all and had to wade through it all to get to where they're at. And genuinely, you don't want to see people out there just fighting the fight because they get turned off to the sport because it's just too much to digest. It's just too hard, whatever the case is. And if we can shorten that learning curve for people and help them have a good experience with it, the more likely they are to stay in the sport. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of why you see the top end shooters really trying to help even the newest guy out there.
Mm-hmm.
So
And how many guys are on the team?
on the USNRT total, I think right
Yeah.
now there's like 190 or so, um, give or take. Honestly, I haven't. Yeah, I'm not involved with the recruiting. Well, with the like the keeping track of all that stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just involved in the recruitment side of it. Trying to recruit as many people as we can get because there's a lot of untapped talent out there that one either didn't know about the USNRT and about full board international style shooting, um, or didn't have an outlet to learn about it. So we're trying to get as many people as we can involved and really try to do the best that we can to represent the U.S.
Yeah, and we're fairly lucky here. So, Coalinga is pretty much in the middle of the state here in California. And so, depending on where you're at, right, it's nearly an equal drive or closer. And, Bob Gill is out there and, doing great work. There's a lot of great shooting. And a lot of people think, there's a lot of negativity around California, and rightfully so, and a lot of reasons. But when it comes to shooting, people are always surprised with how many opportunities there are. And there's within driving distance of me that I'm like comfortable doing like on a day, which is about 4 hours. Um, any discipline,
Yeah.
any discipline is within
Right.
driving distance of me, right? And at any given day, there's multiple matches going on every single weekend. So if you, no matter what style of shooting you're interested in, and obviously we're talking about long range, but then you could get into pistol, shotgun, right? All those other
Yeah,
ones. Yeah.
it's
So it's
all
been,
around.
mhm. So you guys just had your match, right? Over in UK. You guys are at Beasley, right?
Yep, Bisley
Mhm.
shooting grounds there. About a 25-minute ride from Heathrow, International Airport there. It's awesome. I'd been to the camp a long time ago, back in like 2002. But I never shot there. Never actually experienced what the full bore, what their target rifle style shooting is there. And I'm here to tell you, if you're interested in this type of shooting at all in any way, that is the place to go see it, because it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's
They take,
it's I mean, like you said, it's old, right?
yeah,
1800s, 1860s. Not only that, I mean, almost like California, like the UK, every time I talk to somebody, they're like, "Oh, people shoot in the UK? Like I thought they weren't allowed to have guns." And I was like, "Well, we won't get into the whole thing about that, but yeah, no, there's amazing shooters that are coming out of there and out of Europe. In a week or so, I'll be flying out to go film the World Championship for Rimfire. And then 2.5 weeks after that, the European F Class Championships are happening, and I will be there filming that, and that's at Beasley. So really excited to go check it out in person myself. And it just so happens that my wife's family lives 40 minutes from there, so it works out perfectly for me. I told her I was like, "Hey, look, if you want to stay in California, great. If you want to move to the UK, that's fine as long as we live within 40 minutes of the range. Yeah, wherever, whichever way you want to live, that's fine."
their ranges are awesome. Like the Century Range and Stickledown Range. They've held so many world class matches there that they just have it figured out. It's a really, really neat place. The heritage and history there is absolutely amazing, and they do it right. They really do.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump to the end, but a little foreshadowing. All of those videos that got put out by like B something. Rather, I forget. There's like 12 B's in there, but I was like so stoked, right? Because they were putting them out, and I was like, cool. Like I get to see this. Like I didn't know this match was going on, right? Because I try to make a point to know when really really big matches are going on to see if I could fly out there for them. And they were putting them out, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." And then I saw the ceremonies that were going on, and the traveling around to these different spots and doing stuff, and I was like, "That's pretty cool." But let's talk a little bit about the Imperial meeting, right? Um, how long is it? What is it? How does it work? I know there's a lot of complexity to it. There's a lot going on, but to the best that you can sort of
Yeah.
explain it.
So, like the week prior to the target rifle, what we shot, the week prior to that, the cadets are there. So they're junior shooters, and I think there were like 400 or 500 school cadets that were out there shooting, and they shot everything from 300 all the way out to 1,000. They shot basically their old military rifles with issued ammunition, and they shoot basically the same thing. And some of them stay around even after their meeting. They stay around and shoot the full Imperial meeting as well. So there are a lot of them that's stuck around, and that's basically how most all the shooters in the UK. I don't want to misspeak there, but a lot of the shooters in the UK came through the cadet programs, joined the local rifle club, whichever rifle club they're near, and they just stayed into it from the time they were probably 13, 14 years old. And you got guys out there that are literally 85 years old still out there,
Mhm.
coat sling, getting with it. It's awesome. So they shot the cadets. I'm not real sure what their meeting was called. Then we shot the Imperial meeting, and then again they're over there, I think, already shooting the Roberts, or some of the small bore stuff. Maybe the Robertson team.
Mhm.
I can't remember exactly which one it is. I'm confused now. But and then I know
Yeah,
they had,
there's a lot of them. I looked into
yeah,
it and I was like, oh, there's a lot of different types of trophies you can win at this thing.
yeah. So they're shooting small bore right now. I believe it's going on, or they're just getting ready to start. And then the European Championships are coming up there within the next couple of weeks, week or two, whatever
Mm.
it is. So it's just I mean, it's pretty much the biggest place in the UK to go and compete and shoot. And I didn't realize how many people show up and stay in, caravans and tent camping and, the lodging that's on site. A lot of people, they basically plan their entire year around their 2 weeks at Bisley. They set their whole year up just so they can go to Bisley for those 2 or 3 weeks and really truly enjoy, what the place has to offer. And I see why now. I truly do. After being there for a couple of weeks and living there on site, doing the deal, it's an experience that any real, competitive shooter owes it to themselves to go see it and do it one time.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't obviously I only saw clips of what was going on there, but like it looked like a show. Like it looked like there were a ton of fans, like as spectators.
The
It's
real
like
thing.
yeah, what you would hope that these things would be, right? Like it was like and it almost looked like there was like high society there and then like, just like us normal guys out there. Like it was really, really interesting to see as the cameras like sort of pass through there.
It is. It's a big deal, and they take it very seriously. Talk about how hard it is to own a weapon or a firearm in a lot of different countries. So, if they're a competitive shooter, they usually only compete in one discipline, and that single shot 308 rifle. It's basically the one weapon they can own and have and compete with, and so they're very very good with it. And they take it very very seriously. Um, So, you got to always beware of the man with one gun because he probably knows how to use it. Kind of, that
Yeah.
analogy. And
Yep.
those boys are good. They are very very good. The Great Britain rifle team, just unreal. The Australian team. A lot of the Australian members came up. I think there were. I know there were at least two, if not three, world champions from the Australian team that were there for this meeting. There were three or four at least world champions from Great Britain that were there at this meeting, and it's just they all come together and compete every year. It's just part of their year, so it's really neat to get to see the quality of the competition, and it's second to none. I have to say, second to none.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So you're going through this, right? You're doing some stuff with your team. You're shooting independently, and you do fairly well, and you win. I think it used to be called the Queen's Cup, and now it's called the King's Cup. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the Queen's prize. Yes.
Yeah, the Queen's Prize, and you are the first American to ever win this.
Apparently so. I asked around and without going through all the record books, but even the people that are in the know over there were like, yeah, no Americans ever won it before. So it was pretty neat. And I really didn't think I was in it to win it at all because I went into the final in like 30th place. I'd already
Mhm.
dropped 1 point early on. It's at the 300-yard stage of all places. You drop a point at 300, you pretty much know you're out of it for the rest of the
Mhm.
way. But somehow stayed in it, kept it clean at 500, 600, go out to the final. You shoot 15 shots at 900 and 15 shots at 1,000. And, managed to stay clean through that. And it just worked out in my favor, I guess. I just knew there would be somebody that shot it clean the whole way through, shot a perfect 300, but it wasn't in the cards this year.
Oh man. And I know we're all sort of like competing, but we're also sort of rooting for each other. But I mean, it had to be a tough blow for the Brits because I know they don't want Americans really, really winning their titles, right? Uh,
If that were the case, they didn't show it at all.
yeah,
And I
they
kind
were
of I
class
kind of
acts.
I kind of expected everybody, once I knew that I'd won and I knew that, what had happened with Paul's last shot and all stuff, kind of shook his hand. It broke my heart to hear what had happened. But, after all that stuff, like I expected everybody to kind of shake my hand and move on and that would be the end of it. It would just, they're I figured they would like really live it up if one of their own won the thing. And it was the exact opposite of that. Like it seemed like everybody got more excited and just
Hmm.
it ramped up the intensity even more. It was pretty wild. It was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It really was, and they did a great job showing me how like their traditions. You go around to all the clubs, all the clubhouses, and everything, and they really took the time to explain to me, the history of the club, how long they've been doing like their thing, their tradition, and it was absolutely awesome. It was really neat.
Yeah, it was really amazing to watch the footage that was coming out around that. It almost, well, the chariot, that you're carried around on. The only time I'd really ever seen that was at, we're in 2025, would have been like 2024 Worlds for F class. When they did that, and I think Cortina won that, the nationals over there.
Yeah, South
Um,
Africa.
and South Africa. And then so then I saw you and I was like, oh cool, that's like a thing that's done more regularly. And then they had you going around and I was like, man, that is that like it almost felt like a Greek row sort of thing.
It
Like,
was. It really is.
yeah, sort of like
It is.
that, but like at a like an adult version of it. And then um just like people cheering and people, I mean, it had like a high level, like high class feel to it while still being like a British pub somehow.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like.
That's exactly what it was. It's everybody's dressed in their number ones or their military uniform or whatever it is. You go around and it's an experience like you can't get it unless you go there and do it. Like I've been fortunate enough to be chaired in Canada and South Africa, where I won the Governor Generals in Canada. So they chair you off the range and they chair you into the award ceremony. Same thing in South Africa. Same as Eric, I won the sling shooter side of that for the South
Mm,
African National Championship. They chair you off the range, but to be like they take you from the range all the way back to our residence was in the Canada Pavilion, and then you go, everybody gets changed, gets their number ones on, go to the award ceremony, and then they cheer you all the way back around it again. So the cheering went on from basically the time we got off the range or got done shooting at the range until like midnight almost.
mm,
It was
yeah.
wild.
And
It was
I don't
wild.
know if you were, but it sort of looked like they were having you drink at each one of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
they all have one trophy basically that's their club's trophy. And they have a mixture. They put a cocktail in each one of them, and you go around and they toast you and they allow your team. You can give it to your whole team. Team drinks out of it, and then you go on to the next one. You'll eat some hors d'oeuvres around each club, and then you share to the next club, and you do the same thing over and over. And that's when you get to see all the history inside the clubhouses, because a lot of the clubhouses they don't have a restaurant in them or living quarters in them or anything like that. So you don't get to go in and see the history unless you have an event like this, and that's why they do it, I believe. And that's where all the really cool old stuff is. It's in those
Mhm.
clubhouses. All the names of all the winners, all the trophies, and all the stuff is in there. So it's really really neat.
Yeah, it's very amazing, and I've had the fortunate luck to have married a British person, so I've learned a lot of these, cultural differences, and like you sort of said, like everybody goes and puts on their best clothes, right? That's a very British thing, to be out there and doing stuff like that at a shooting range. So that is really really cool. But clearly you're no stranger to success in the shooting world, right? You've had your fair amount of wins, things like that. What did this one mean to you?
Um, going into it, I knew it would be cool to win, a Queens or a Kings or whatever, because I've heard about it through the years. I've heard about the cheering and I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. So, there's lost, a lot gets lost there until you see it. And then once it happens, you get to see it, you realize how big of a deal it is to everybody else. And even though it wasn't, I wasn't expecting to win it, I didn't expect it to be a big deal. Once it happened, you get to see how serious they take it and how much enjoyment everybody else gets out of it. So it just kind of rubs off on you, and you get to experience that. So it becomes a very big deal to you very quickly. You realize what it is and the history behind it, and that's what that kind of makes it important to you. So again, I'm a grand aggregate chaser. Like I like to win or compete for the grand aggregate, the overall end all be all the shots combined,
Hmm.
where the kings and the queens and the governors and all these other matches, they're their own separate piece of the match. They just happen to be the piece that they put the emphasis on. So I was more worried about the grand aggregate than I was the kings, and digging myself out of a hole that I shot myself into on the first 1,000 yard shoot there. And had a terrible run of luck there. Just got beat up by the wind really, really badly. So I kind of knew I was out of it for anything else. And I just was trying to fight my way out of that and, shoot the best shots I could. And Ben Elms was the 2015 world champion when we shot for the Worlds there in Camp Perry. And I was talking to him right before the Kings final. And he was like, "What are you going in with it with?" And I'm like, "I'm off a point. I've got a few V's. He was like, okay, so you're still in it. I'm like, I've dropped a point. You got 30 other people ahead of me. And there's no way you're coming back from that, And he's like, you know what, mate? All you can do is keep yourself in the middle and let it all pan out how it's going to pan out. And that was all I thought about the whole time. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do everything I can to keep these shots going in the center of the bull and, see how it shakes out. And after I broke my last shot, caught it a little bit on the right. It came up with five, a little bit on the right. Should have put that one in the middle. I didn't do what I needed to do. And as soon as I turned around, I saw everybody gathered behind me. Okay, maybe it was good enough because they were fist pumping and all that stuff. And they were trying to contain themselves because there were still other people shooting on the firing line, but they weren't doing a very good job. A lot of the people were already pumped up and they were excited. So that's kind of when you get excited. You're a part of it and all that.
So what I was saying is I was talking a little bit about for the people that don't know how close these matches really are, right? And how a lot of times they come down to X counts or V counts. And right now I'm following the nationals that are going on out in Raton, and the amount of shooting that's come out of there has been just so crazy. I think there's been some new national records set. I think there was a couple 219s that were coming out of there. I know Shiloh just set a youth national record and tied, I think, the ladies national record. And so it's been really crazy to see that. I would imagine that that's fairly similar to what you guys are seeing as well.
Yeah. So internationally, in the target rifle or full bore, Palma style shooting, anytime you travel internationally, you get the high end competitors from each country coming to one place. That the competition is going to be absolutely fierce, and so it just drives you to pay attention to what you're doing and try to stay in the game. Our sport over the last several years here in the U.S., it's kind of faded. A lot of people go into F class, and a lot of people go into PRS, a lot of people go into to shoot other things. So the depth of field there has kind of spread out a bit. And now there's a resurgence of it, especially in the F class FTR world. And you start to see just some absolute monster scores. People are getting very serious about it again, and just those giant scores going up. So it's all super tight. I mean, like I said, I dropped 1 point the very first shoot in the King's second stage at 300 yards, and you just know you're out of it then, because it's just they're going to be a double armload of people that are crushing it, and trying to keep up with that. It's very tough to do, but the level of competition at any of these, like the Nationals and Lodi, where they're shooting F class at right now, and the scores are monstrous. We have the civilian marksmanship program shooting their long range national championship at Camp Perry right now, and I know Amanda Elsavoss, one of my old teammates, was clean going into the last match, I believe. So she'd shot six or five 20-shot strings with a coat and sling at 1,000 yards and stayed clean through all of them. So I think she had something go on there in her last string, but they still have the Palma day today or tomorrow. I can't remember, and then I'll wrap it up. But yeah, there's armload of people that were down 2 or 3 points over 4 or 5 days of shooting. So it's just crazy. The level of competition in any of these big matches is pretty tight.
Yeah, it's getting. I remember 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I first started shooting F class, or I started to like play around with it. And I remember I had quickly made friends with somebody, and we were texting, and I had asked them like, "What's a good score?" Right? And he's a very, very like dry texter, and he was like 200, and I like laughed, and I thought he was joking, right? I'm like, okay, a perfect score, yeah, yeah. And he's like, no, 100%, like 200. And then I've had the chance to talk to these guys, and they talked about the progression, right? 212x, 215x, 200. I think Norm might have the highest right now with like 222 or 23x, something like that. Um, so it's crazy, right? I mean, it's getting so much more competitive. I keep telling people we need to move the line back to make it more difficult, or something, because it's crazy how competitive it's getting. But it's really fun to see. It's really fun to see that growth. And like I said, not every. I try to do this because I realize not every discipline is getting as much love as other ones, right? And your guys is particularly, like I said, to me feels like very, very much like at the heart of what we're really doing here. And I was really excited to see your guys' social media and stuff like really ramp up and things like that. So I'm hoping to continue to see a growth, because we need more long range shooters. We need more shooters in general. throughout the country. But not only that, like I often think like there's probably some pretty good. I mean, this is in any sport, right? You see football players who could have easily been pro basketball players, right, or pro football players, or vice versa. So I think about that in this discipline as well, right? If people would have done this, but even then, the people we have, they're just pushing the boundaries, the growth of technology as well, which I don't know how much that plays a factor for you guys because you guys do keep a very kind of sound equipment there. But do you guys have anything like that that's really making a difference?
So yes and no. The Palma game kind of started all the rest of it. So the tried and true, 308, those 155 grain, a jacketed hollow point, boat tail, hollow point style bullet, will get the job done. And the big progressions come along since F class, of course, and FTR. The bullet designs have changed, the barrel, the chambers, tuners, stock work, bedding, compounds, all this stuff has kind of changed, and some of that technology that we've learned through or from the F class guys, we've tried to adopt over into the sling style shooting because we want our rifles to be as accurate as they can be. Of course, our target's bigger. We're shooting out of a coat and sling, iron sights. The target's a little bit more forgiving, but you still need a rifle that can outperform you.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, that wasn't the case in the sling shooting world. You had shooters that could just outshoot the rifles there, for years and years and years. Just the bullets weren't that good, the powder wasn't that good, whatever the case was. There were gaps to be filled, and since I believe since the F class stuff has taken off and all of the technology that's gone into making those rifles and that ammunition so accurate for those tiny targets, it's really pushed the boundary of what the sling shooters have access to as well. It's really helped us up our game quite a bit, and that takes away a lot of the excuses. Back in the day, if you just had a bad batch of bullets or whatever, some powder that was temperature unstable, you just catch a bad run of luck and you have a bad score. Now basically they've taken away all our excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have equipment that will outperform you day in and day out, and
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be on top of your game. It's driven the shooters to focus more on their honing their skills, honing the wind reading skills, and it's just it's made the whole sport more competitive and
Mm-hmm.
more enjoyable for me. Like I do not like chasing something that I don't know what it is, as far as like a powder issue or a bullet issue or a brass issue or whatever. I like stuff that just works, and then when I mess it up, it's on me because I can fix that. It's when you're chasing a ghost out there, you don't really know what it is. That gets a little frustrating. So
Yeah.
now it's all on your shoulders. You just have to get out there and perform.
Yeah, it's been really fun to see that concept come into place, right, between all of the disciplines and see essentially the grouping come to closer and closer and closer, right, with how well people are competing. And then it's sort of proof in the pudding, right? You have 13, 16-year-old shooters that are shooting and out shooting senior shooters, right? And so it's sort of a clear thing to me, and that's why this year I've dedicated it to wind. Um, that to me is like the new determining factor, right? If you can afford and you spend the time in the training, at some point that's really the last thing, right? You're going to have your body mechanics in place, you're going to have your system in place, and then it comes down to, well, how well can you pull that trigger and understand what that wind is doing. um, and that's been really fun with me. I partnered with Wind Zero this year, and using their system, which is a multi-directional wind meter system that pairs multiple systems together, so you can put them all downrange, and then it'll give you second to second readbacks, and it does graphing and line graphing, so you can see trends of wind through what's happening with our flag. And we're lucky because we have flags, right? Things like that. So it's been a really interesting tool, and it's like the progression of stuff like that, and then certain tools from PRS that I've sort of brought over to see, like, to physically map out like the what the barrel's doing when it shoots, like where is it moving up and down, like that sort of stuff. That's like that sort of stuff's taking these sports to the next level, right? So it's really fun to see that. Are you coaching or mentoring anyone right now?
I mean, I'm the head coach of the USNRT, or the Palma team. So
Mhm.
I do everything I can, with USNRT members, of course. So that's those events at the end of any of the matches, and that's the thing. Like I wanted to open up to anybody that wanted to stay. You didn't have to be a team member to come to one of these matches and stay after. If you could, as long as you could stay after, you could learn something. So,
Mhm.
doing what I can there. Outside of that, between the traveling and everything, I don't really have time to stop and do much one-on-one coaching. So
Yeah.
it's all been like team format stuff. But
You
I
guys
hope
travel a
on.
lot, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been quite a bit this year, which I kind of wanted it that way. I wanted to shoot as many matches as I could throughout the year. So it started in February, and we'll wrap up in October when I'm going to come out to Kalinga and we're going to shoot. I forget the name of those Western states or whatever it
Mhm.
is out there, and then we're going to actually do a real deal Palma training event out there. So our 16-man team, 4 line coaches, 2 back coaches, the whole deal, 4 targets running at one time. So looking forward to that. That'll be fun to do that. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm gonna have to come out there and film for that event then.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit since I've been out there, but it is the place to go, and it's spreading out a little bit now. Like if you follow Freedom Bench Rest, those nationals or Western nationals are held at my range up here in Northern California. But for the most part, a lot of stuff is held down there at the Coalinga, but just because it's in the middle of the state, it's easier to get to, right? So it's a great place to go out and do that. I will say that it is probably one of the ugliest places you can drive through with all of the oil fields and stuff, unless
That's
that's
what I
your
said.
thing. But once you get out around the secret passage and you get back there, you're like, oh, this is actually quite nice. Surprised to see the facility here and everything. So that's been super cool. Well, we're getting towards the tail end of this. I know that we could probably talk for much longer, but I know you have a lot of things you need to do. I appreciate you being on and sharing your experience. Giving us some knowledge on what's going on with the team, what's going on, here in the U.S. with our shooting and things like that. Before I jump off, I don't think you do, but is there like public social media accounts you would direct people to that they should follow?
So I have mine is Brandon ZX10, and it's open as a public account. The USNRT is a public account as well, and so Instagram. Trying to think of who else has. Kelbley's Rifles has theirs open. Just get on any one of them, and you'll see all the other people that are being tagged in there.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of information out there. If you're interested in any type of shooting in the U.S., you can get on one person's social media profile and find links to everything that you
Hmm.
need, every discipline. So, um, again, like to encourage people to get on the USNRT website. You can catch up kind of the latest and greatest news that the USNRT is putting out there. A lot of information, so get on there and check it out. And also, got to mention, you got to plug the fundraising side of it. That's a big part of what the U.S. teams have an issue with is trying to do fundraising to get team members around the world or around the country to training events. And we have suffered, for a long time, of just being kind of the retired man's game. People that can afford it could go do it. Everybody else is stuck working.
Hmm.
So we're trying to up our fundraising quite a bit. And I actually posted a little video on my personal Instagram account asking for ideas for fundraising. So if anybody sees this out there, reach out to me at BrandonZX10 and shoot me ideas for fundraising so I can bring them back to the USNRT and we can try to complete some of those tasks and do some fundraising and get the team where it needs to be.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that. And, I talked to Bob about this a little bit and another guy out there, and we'll have to talk offline, a little bit about the fundraising thing. But, like, that's a thing that really escapes me. It blows my mind a little bit where I'm like, what company, US company, wouldn't want to sponsor the US team, right? Like, and so I get that there's a lot of polarizing thoughts around firearms and things like that, but we're shooting paper. We're not shooting anything
Yeah.
else, right? This is, and not only that, like the people that like are typically like doing fairly well in this, they're like highly accomplished people. The mindset that goes into like being able to compete at this level has been a lot of engineers, a lot of like really high end machinists and things like that. So it's really interesting. But yeah, I agree, guys. If you have the means, you have the ability, and you want to support the growth of long range, definitely take a look at that. Find an opportunity to where you can contribute and we're doing our part here, Black Plague Precision, to help bring donors and sponsors in and things like that where we can. So definitely looking to connect offline. But I appreciate you being on. Everybody else, thank you guys for listening. Like, comment, share goes a long way to grow this community. And if you have a chance, get out to the range, take a shot, and I will see you guys next time.